There it was, white bristles, blue rubber grip, and just enough dried toothpaste crust to prove it had lived a life of quiet domesticity. My toothbrush, sitting calmly on the sink edge, alone. Now, I know what you're thinking. It's just a toothbrush. But here's the thing, it wasn't supposed to be there. My wife, Anna, had packed our travel bag the night before. We were heading out for a weekend cabin trip to reconnect. Her idea, not mine. She insisted on packing for both of us. Less chaos, she said, tossing me a tight-lipped smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. I should have noticed something was off then, how she flinched when I reached to help, or how she double-checked her phone every 5 minutes like it held state secrets. But I didn't. Because I'm the kind of guy who believes people mean what they say, especially people you've loved for over a decade. Apparently, I'm also the kind of guy who can't spot a trap even when he's being handed the bait with ribbon and bows. So when I walked back into the bathroom that morning and saw my toothbrush sitting there, it stopped me cold. The kind of cold that starts behind your eyes and slides down your spine, chilling your guts before your brain catches up. Because Anna never forgets details. She's the type who color codes grocery lists. She irons her jeans. The woman once sent me back to the store because I brought home unsweetened almond milk instead of original. That's who she is. She doesn't forget a toothbrush. Not unless she means to. At first, I played it cool. I walked into the kitchen, duffel bag in hand. She was already buckling herself into the driver's seat of the SUV, sunglasses on indoors like she was hiding from paparazzi or truth, maybe both. Hey, I said, casually lifting the bag. You didn't pack my toothbrush. She blinked. I didn't. Nope. Still in the sink. A pause. Microseconds stretched like pulled taffy. Then she laughed, a forced, brittle sound. Oops. Guess I was rushing. You can grab it. But she didn't move to get out of the car. She didn't offer to grab it herself. She just sat there, hand white-knuckled on the wheel, tapping her fingers in a rhythm I didn't recognize. Like Morse code 4, I hope you don't see what I'm hiding. I retrieved the toothbrush in silence. But as I slid back into the passenger seat, something shifted in my gut. Something whispered, this isn't about oral hygiene. That drive to the cabin? Quiet. Too quiet. The kind of silence you don't dare poke at, like a balloon that's one prick away from explosion. Anna played her music louder than usual, mostly 90s R&B breakup ballads, which, in hindsight, should have screamed irony. But I was still too numb to hear it. We made it to the cabin by nightfall. She unpacked quickly, her movements sharp and surgical. I watched her from the couch, toothbrush in my hand, like it was a relic from a simpler time. That night, we didn't argue. We didn't talk much at all. She kissed my cheek goodnight like a stranger signing off an email. And as she turned out the light, I heard her phone buzz. Once. Then again. And again. She didn't check it. That was the moment I knew. Whatever was waiting in the dark wasn't sleeping. It was wide awake, and it had already brushed its teeth. The morning light in the cabin hit different, like it had something to say but didn't want to start a fight. Anna stood by the window, sipping coffee, staring at the lake like it owed her an apology. Her hair was pulled into a bun, her sweater draped perfectly off one shoulder. Instagram ready, even in isolation. I poured myself a cup, more for the routine than the caffeine. Then I saw it, her phone, left unattended on the kitchen counter. Unlocked. Anna never leaves her phone unlocked. I didn't even move toward it, not yet. I just stood there, watching it, like it might hiss or bite. And then, like clockwork, it buzzed. 3 words. Flashing bold on the screen. Miss you already. From a number with no name, just digits. Cold, impersonal. The way people label things they don't want you to ask about. My stomach tightened. I took a sip of coffee and burned my tongue. Perfect. She turned, smiling like someone caught mid-lie in a game of charades. Did you sleep okay? I nodded. Yeah. You. Like a rock. Her voice was too sweet. Like frosting on spoiled cake. She walked over, grabbed her phone, and nothing. No visible panic, no sudden jerk to hide the screen. Just a casual glance, a lock screen swipe, and a smooth slide into her back pocket. Slick. Practiced. She either didn't know I saw the message, or didn't care. We went on a hike that afternoon. It was her idea. Nature, she said, would clear the air. But the air between us stayed thick. Heavy with unspoken things. My legs moved, but my mind was miles behind, trying to decode the soft tremor in her voice when she said she loved the view. She snapped a picture of the lake. Then another. Then a selfie. Then one of us, together. She asked me to smile. I did. Barely. Halfway back, her phone buzzed again. She glanced down, barely concealed a smirk, and typed something fast, then slid it away. I didn't ask. Not yet. I wanted to, but I didn't want to hear the answer. That night, she lit candles. Said she wanted us to talk. Really talk. She poured wine. Wore the red blouse I used to love. I've been thinking, she said. Maybe we should take a trip this fall. Europe? Somewhere new. Somewhere just for us. Us. That word, suddenly foreign on her lips. I looked at her across the candlelight. Beautiful. Familiar. And utterly unreachable. Like I was staring at someone wearing her face, but not her skin. You sure you want to do that? I asked. She tilted her head. Do what? Go somewhere new. Together. When something about this place already feels like goodbye. Her face didn't change. Not even a twitch. That scared me more than any confession would have. What are you saying? She asked, her voice a little too steady. I'm saying. I paused. Held her gaze. You left my toothbrush. She blinked. Once. Twice. Then smiled, cool and dismissive. You're being paranoid. I nodded, slow and steady. Maybe. But that night, after she fell asleep with her phone under the pillow like a secret, I opened my laptop and booked a second cabin, for one. Different location. Different name. Just in case I needed somewhere to run, or someone needed somewhere to follow me. It started with a name I didn't recognize, and ended with a truth I couldn't unsee. 3 a.m. The witching hour of suspicion. Anna was asleep, or pretending to be. Her phone, however, was very much alive, lighting up the nightstand every few minutes like it was practicing Morse code. I waited until her breathing evened out, the steady rhythm of someone confident nothing could touch them. Then I reached under the pillow and pulled out her phone like a thief in his own home. No passcode. Bold move, or maybe just arrogant. Either way, it opened like it wanted to talk. And it did. His name was Owen. Not saved under some clever code like work contact or pharmacy guy. No, just Owen. Because apparently, she wasn't even trying to hide him anymore. Why would she? When the only person who might notice was already 2 steps behind. The messages were casual, calculated, laced with inside jokes I wasn't part of. Still can't stop thinking about the last time. He doesn't have a clue. It's almost fun. Wish you were here. The bed's cold without you. That one. That was the one that made my grip tighten until the phone creaked. The bed she was sleeping in. Next to me. Cold without someone else. I scrolled further. Photos. Nothing graphic. Anna wasn't that careless, but intimate. Smiles she hadn't worn for me in months. Poses that felt stolen from another life. His hand on her shoulder in one. Her leaning into him in another. Always cropped tight, as if the guilt was hiding just out of frame. And then, the final nail. A selfie. Taken in this cabin. 2 nights ago. Same shirt she wore to dinner. Same earrings. Same smile. But not for me. I stared at that photo, so long my eyes burned. And when I finally looked away, it wasn't out of pain. It was clarity. Pure and cold. Because now I knew. She hadn't just forgotten the toothbrush. She'd left it behind on purpose. A signal. A breadcrumb. A test. And I'd passed. I didn't throw the phone. I didn't wake her up. I didn't scream or storm out. That's not how this ends. No, I did what I always do. I planned. The next morning, I made pancakes. Her favorite. Blueberry with cinnamon. She kissed my cheek and called me sweet. Said I was starting to feel like the old us again. I smiled. But not for her. Later that day, while she was showering, I borrowed her phone again. Copied everything. Texts, photos, call logs. Onto a USB drive. Labeled it Plan B. That night, I lay beside her in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the soft hum of a woman who still thought she was in control. But she had no idea what was coming. Because Owen wasn't just anyone. He was a name I recognized from our mortgage paperwork. The next morning, I sat across from my wife like I had every day for the past 11 years. Same table, same smiles, same syrup bottle with the crusty cap that never got cleaned. But I wasn't the same man. Not after last night. Anna talked about hiking routes. I nodded. She asked if I wanted to try kayaking this afternoon. I said sure. Somewhere between sips of orange juice and a joke about raccoons she read online. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. You're being really good to me this weekend, she said. I needed this. Needed what exactly? A reset? A disguise? Or just enough space to make the guilt easier to swallow? I held her gaze for a second too long. Long enough for her smile to falter. I gave her a wink and stood to clear my plate. That seemed to reset whatever script she was reading from. I took my coffee out to the porch. That's where I opened my laptop. The one she never cared about, never checked, because what kind of secrets could a guy like me possibly have? Google helped me trace the name. Owen Kessler. Nothing flashy. No social media footprint. But public records? Oh, those told a story. Turns out Owen had a business. Real estate. Flipped homes, ran weekend retreats, and this part made me laugh, offered couples counseling through an LLC he co-owned with some life coach from Santa Fe. He was the kind of man who wore yoga pants in public and called it confidence. But it wasn't just his name on lifestyle blogs and tax filings. It was on our mortgage. One of the refinance forms 3 years ago. The year Anna said we had to streamline things. She handled most of it, said I could just trust her. I skimmed, I signed, because I believed in delegation. But tucked into one of those e-docs? Owen Kessler. Co-signer. Consultant. Silent partner on the title transfer. She hadn't just betrayed me physically. She handed a stranger a key to my home and made me thank her for the favor. Now, I knew what you're thinking. Burn it all down. Lawyer up. Storm in and demand blood. But no, that would have been too easy. Too expected. I had something better. I logged into our joint savings account. The one she rarely touched because, in her words, budgeting gives me hives. I made a quiet transfer. Nothing flashy. Just enough to spook. Enough to send a signal. Then I opened a new email. To Owen Kessler. Subject, about the cabin. Hey Owen. Funny thing, I didn't recognize your name at first. But then I remembered. You're on my mortgage. Wild, right? I know about you and Anna. I've seen the texts, the photos. Huge shirt, by the way. Banana yellow? Bold choice. I wanted to say thanks. For giving me clarity. For giving her the illusion of escape. But mostly, for underestimating me. Let's see how well you handle surprises. Warm regards. The guy who's not as stupid as she told you. I didn't send it. Not yet. Because the real surprise wasn't for Owen. It was for Anna. And it was coming. Tonight. There's something sacred about the sound of a cork popping. It's the kind of sound that says, we made it. Or at least pretends we did. That night, it echoed through the cabin like a shot fired into the ceiling of a crumbling church. Anna lit candles. She wore her hair down, rare for her. A soft black dress that flirted with her knees and made me remember the first night we met. I could have let that memory warm me. I didn't. Instead, I poured the wine. Her favorite, Tempranillo. She always said it tasted like secrets. How did I get so lucky? She asked, holding her glass like a peace treaty. I smiled. Just good timing, I guess. We dined on seared salmon, roasted vegetables, and one very carefully prepared silence. She talked about how she wanted to repaint the living room when we got home. How she'd been thinking about fostering a dog. How the cabin had really opened something in her. I nodded. I matched her warmth. I even laughed once, and it sounded real. Because tonight wasn't about confrontation. It was about theater. And I was playing my part to perfection. After dinner, I handed her a small box. She blinked. What's this? Open it, I said, setting my glass down. Inside, a delicate silver necklace. Simple. Elegant. Very, very reflective. Her eyes widened. It's beautiful. It was my mother's, I said. I thought you might like it. Truth was, it wasn't my mother's. I bought it 2 days ago. But it had a tiny embedded pin camera, and it was already synced to my laptop. She clasped it around her neck, touched it gently. Thank you, she whispered. I poured more wine. Sat back. Let the moment breathe. You ever think about how we got here? I asked. She smiled wistfully. All the time. Ever feel like we lost our way a little? She nodded slowly. We've had some rough patches. Do you think we're still good for each other? That one made her hesitate. And in that pause, 2 seconds of tightening breath, I saw it. The debate behind her eyes. The little mental scale trying to weigh honesty against consequence. Then she smiled. I do. I think this trip's reminded me what we have. I leaned in. So, no secrets? She reached across the table, touched my hand. No secrets, she said, and her voice didn't waver. That was the moment I knew. Not just that she was lying, but that she believed I was still blind enough to buy it. I raised my glass. To new beginnings, I said. She clinked hers to mine. To us. But while she sipped wine, I was already picturing the footage that necklace would capture the next time she visited Owen. The next text. The next lie. Because I wasn't going to confront her. I was going to record her. And when the time came, I'd make her watch it all. The thing about betrayal, it doesn't scream. It whispers. Softly. Persistently. Like a faucet you forgot to shut off. And now? I was listening. The necklace Anna wore that week? It captured everything. Every late-night whisper. Every call when she thought I was asleep. Every hiss of a text being typed, deleted, retyped. It also captured a name. Not Owen. No, she called him T. Owen was just the mask. The man behind it? Tyler Durant. A finance consultant she worked with briefly. Briefly, my foot. Judging by the audio, he knew her better than I ever had. I spent the next few days playing normal like it was a sport. Mornings, coffee, jokes, half hugs. Afternoons, hikes, more photos for her private folder. Evenings, wine, laughter, the occasional stolen kiss that left me colder than the wind off the lake. But every night, when she slept, I reviewed the evidence. Dozens of recordings. Clear as confession. Her voice, giddy and intimate. Talking about the plan. That word came up often. He's buying it. Hook, line, and toothbrush. I think we do it after the refinance clears. Don't feel guilty. He's too soft to fight back anyway. Too soft. She said that about me. That was when I smiled. Not the sad, broken kind. No, this one had teeth. Because I had her exact words on tape. Had her betrayal in high-definition stereo. And best of all, I had her trust. She still thought I was asleep at the wheel. The loyal husband packing trail mix and printing directions while she plotted to replace me. So I leaned in. I played the role harder. I left sweet notes on her pillow. I booked a couple's massage. I even suggested we get away again next month, maybe something more remote. She lit up like I proposed all over again. That night, I drafted 2 letters. One to her office HR, with an attached file of her conversations every damning second. The other, to her new lover's wife. Her real name, her real address, his real voice, calling my wife goddess. I didn't send them. Yet. Because the final move needed perfect timing. Tomorrow was our last night at the cabin. And I had a surprise planned. The kind that would show her exactly how soft I wasn't. You can learn a lot about people from how they build a fire. Anna did it methodically, like she was following a script someone gave her. Neat stack of kindling, logs crisscrossed, every motion calm and controlled. I, on the other hand, wasn't following a script. I was writing one. The fire crackled between us as dusk slid into evening. The cabin sat quiet behind us, the lake glassy and still like it was waiting for something to break. Anna sipped her wine and gazed at the flames. This has been nice, she said. We needed this. Needed. There it was again, that word she liked to use when she meant, I feel better about lying to you now. I poked the fire, letting sparks spit into the air. You remember our first bonfire? She smiled. The beach trip. You burned the hot dogs. You said it was charming, I chuckled. It was, she said. Back then. There was a heaviness to her voice, the kind that tried to sound nostalgic but tasted more like guilt. I let the silence hang just long enough to feel uncomfortable. Then I reached into my jacket and pulled out a small envelope. What's that? She asked, suspicious but still smiling. Something I wrote, I said. I figured, last night here, might as well say everything. She blinked. You wrote me a letter? I nodded and handed it over. She opened it slowly, eyes flicking across the page. One paragraph in, the smile dropped. By the third, her hands started shaking. By the last, she wasn't breathing. The letter wasn't flowery. It wasn't angry. Just factual. I detailed what I'd heard. The dates. The voices. The plan. How she and Tyler, or T, as she cooed into the phone, had mapped out every step. How she laughed about my stupid loyalty. How she thought I was safe. I told her I'd copied every file. Backed it all up. Sent a decoy folder to her firm's head of compliance, marked urgent. Told them it was a potential breach of confidentiality. I watched her eyes widen as she reached for her phone. It's off, I said, sipping my wine. I turned it off an hour ago. Don't worry, I didn't read your texts this time. I've read enough. She stood suddenly, the firelight painting her in wild shadows. You don't know what you're doing, she hissed. Oh, I do, I said. I'm setting you free. What do you want from me? I looked up at her. Calm. Still. I want you to remember this fire. Every time you see a flicker of warmth and think about trust. I want you to feel the cold that came after. She stepped toward me. You think you're so clever? You're just bitter. Maybe, I said, standing. But I'm not the one who's going to lose their job, their reputation, or their exit strategy. I pulled another envelope from my pocket. This one's for Tyler's wife, I added. in case you try to get cute." She stared at it like it might explode. Then, I threw it into the fire. Her jaw dropped. "Why would you?" "Because I'm not here for revenge, Anna. I'm here for closure. The kind that burns clean." The envelope blackened, curled, and turned ash. She looked at me like she didn't recognize the man standing across the flames. "That made two of us. You ever watch someone realize they've lost? Not like a game. Not like missing a promotion. I'm talking full-soul realization. The kind that cracks beneath the surface like thawing ice and drops you into water too cold to scream." That was Anna. She didn't cry. Not yet. She stood by the fire like a statue sculpted in panic, perfect posture, arms locked, face frozen mid-recalculation. I watched her brain work. Spin. Strategize. That's always been her gift, staying composed when the floor vanished. "So, what now?" she finally said. "You humiliate me and walk away?" I tilted my head. "Anna, you humiliated yourself. I just let you hear the echo." She scoffed. "You think this makes you strong? Smug? You're still alone." "Maybe. But I'm not lying alone." She flinched. The fire cracked behind us, chewing through pine like it had something to prove. "I don't even know who you are," she said, arms crossing tight. "You were never this cold." "No," I nodded. "Because I was busy being warm for someone who stopped feeling years ago." The words hung between us like smoke, thick, sour, unavoidable. She stepped forward. "So that's it? You're done?" I smiled. Not wide. Not cruel. Just enough to say I've already left, even if my feet are still on this porch. "No, not done. Just done here." Then I handed her the last card in the deck. A flash drive. Black. Unlabeled. Small enough to lose but heavy with consequence. "What is it?" she whispered. "A mirror." She didn't touch it. I tucked it into the front pocket of her coat. "Watch it. Or don't. But know this. Copies exist. And if I lose even $1 in the divorce because of your little soap opera with Tyler, they'll find their way to the right people." Her face cracked, just a tremble. The kind that shows through the makeup when someone's world begins to unmake itself. This was all. What? Revenge? I shook my head. "No, Anna. This was respect. Just a very different kind than the one you threw away." Behind her, the fire sputtered. A gust of wind stirred the ashes, carried sparks into the air like tiny stars escaping gravity. She looked back, as if the fire might offer a clue or a way out. But this time, it had no more warmth left for her. I walked past her. Calm. Steady. She didn't follow. Not yet. There's a strange silence that rides shotgun when you leave someone behind, especially when they're still breathing. The tires crunched over gravel as I pulled away from the cabin. No music. No podcasts. Just the low hum of the engine and the wind, like it was whispering secrets through the cracked window. I didn't look in the rearview mirror. I didn't need to. Anna wouldn't chase. Not now. Maybe not ever. Because she knew if she ran after me now, it wouldn't be for love. It'd be to save what little image she had left. And Anna always played the long game, except this time. I read the rules before the pieces moved. Halfway down the winding mountain road, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I let it ring. Then another buzz, this time a text. "You've made your point, but you're ruining both of us." I read it. Twice. Then deleted it. Because here's the thing. When you spend your life accommodating someone else's storms, the first time you stand in the sun, they'll swear you're burning the house down. I wasn't ruining us. I was refusing to drown with her. I reached the highway just as the sun cracked through the trees, golden light slicing through the windshield. It hit my face like a question I hadn't asked myself yet. What now? I could have driven home, packed what was mine, called the lawyer, played the hits. But instead, I turned right, not left, away from home, away from history. 3 hours later, I was in a small coastal town we used to pass through on the way to see her family. A place she always said was too quiet, too plain. It felt perfect. I booked a week in a modest motel overlooking the ocean, the kind with paper-thin walls and the kind of peace you can't buy in cities. I opened my laptop, logged into my secure drive. The video files were all there, untouched, waiting, just in case she got ambitious. And then, out of curiosity, maybe a bit of foolish hope, I checked the cabin security cam I installed the night before we left. She didn't know about that one. It was hidden in the porch light, pointed at the fire pit. The feed loaded. There she was, alone, standing by the cold ashes, necklace still on, looking up at the sky like it might give her a different ending. She didn't cry. She just stood there, motionless, For a long, long time. Maybe that was her way of mourning what she lost. Or maybe she was calculating her next move. Either way, I wasn't watching for her anymore. I was watching for myself. They say healing isn't a straight line. Whoever they are clearly never had to untangle their life from someone who wore loyalty like a costume. It's been 6 weeks since I left that cabin. 6 weeks since Anna and I last spoke. No voicemails. No dramatic, I miss you monologues. Just silence, the kind that feels more like relief than absence. The divorce papers went out last Monday. My lawyer called it clean, which is legal speak for she knew she had no ground to stand on. She didn't contest, didn't fight, didn't even ask for anything. Guilt can make a person very agreeable. I moved into a smaller place. No fireplace. No framed wedding photos. No need to pretend anymore. The walls are still bare, but they're mine. Honest in their emptiness. Every so often, I'll find something of hers in a box, an old scarf, a note, a wine cork from one of those perfect nights. And each time, I don't get angry. I get clear. Because clarity is the gift betrayal gives when you stop trying to fix what wasn't yours to repair. Last night, I took a walk down to the pier. It was windy. The kind of wind that makes your coat flap like a cape. And for the first time in months, I didn't feel small. I didn't feel like a footnote in someone else's story. I felt real, alive. There was a couple on a bench, laughing like they'd just met. I didn't envy them. I just hoped, for their sake, they were honest. And if they weren't, well, may they both be excellent actors. Back home, I poured a drink. The same rum Anna used to claim was too strong. I drank it neat. To endings that save you. To beginnings you don't rush. To the peace that comes when the smoke clears, and you realize the fire never destroyed you. It just burned away what didn't belong. So if you're asking how the story ends, it doesn't. It simply resets. And this time, I'm not handing anyone else the pen.